Hello, everyone. Welcome to Tech Innovator Spotlight. This is your host, Vrushali Soni. Today is a bittersweet for me. This is the last episode of this season. I do want to take a quick moment and thank Dimitri, Michael, Dan, Pranav, Aaron. If you're listening to this, thank you for making this vision of ours into reality. Rob, Hanger Media, thank you, everybody. But most importantly, thank you to the audience. Honestly, I thought there will be two viewers, one my sister and the one that she will bribe somebody to watch. And it is not two views. It has been super successful, and you all are contributing to that. So thank you so much. I really appreciate all the support, and hopefully we will continue next season. But for now, we are super excited to have DocuSign as part of our episode. Before I introduce our guest, I would love to introduce my co-host, partner in crime, DJ. DJ, take it away.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much. First and foremost, we're excited to be on the platform today. I've been working with DocuSign as a data and AI SSP for 3 years. Crazy long journey. So I'm excited to share some of the insights that I've seen and talk more with Kunal about how the whole idea came about for IAM. So excited for the podcast today.
Awesome. Thank you, DJ, for joining us. And Kunal, no other than DocuSign. Kunal, please introduce yourself, your title, as well as a little bit about your role in DocuSign.
Thanks, Vrushali and DJ, and thanks for the ongoing partnership. I really appreciate it on behalf of DocuSign, many people at DocuSign. So at DocuSign, I serve as the VP of Architecture, where I lead the strategic direction and technical architecture for our intelligent management platform, sometimes known by the shorter version, which I think DJ just used, either Navigator or IAM. And my work involves deeply integrating AI-driven insights, specifically, also real-time analytics, security, and observability into DocuSign's cloud infrastructure, enabling our customers, our partners, SIs, people who build on us, to derive significant business value from their digital agreements. Since launching Navigator, we've seen considerable positive impact, including substantial growth in our platform's adoption and market perception, which of course tells me that people who are building on us are also doing well. That's when we do well. My own personal journey in this technology and this space, overall technology has spanned more than 2 decades, beginning at Microsoft, where I spent no fewer than 22 years with my good friends driving innovation across several high-impact products and platforms. Early in my career at Microsoft, I focused on pioneering data-driven products, including Azure Time Series Insights, which enable real-time analytics at massive scale. And that's kind of when I got hooked on this whole part of the tech stack. And also semantic search in SQL Server, a technology that significantly enhanced database querying and insight extraction capabilities, which also then later on segued into what I'm doing now. Subsequently, also at Microsoft, I took on engineering leadership roles in Power BI as I went to GA from a prototype, followed by CTO-level leadership roles within Microsoft's Power Platform under Charles Lamanna, specifically Power Apps, driving low-code and no-code app creation powered by AI. Back then, it was GPT-3, not as widely known. Very few people knew what that thing was, but we started to innovate. We started actually put out bits into customers' hands from GPT-3, and then transforming how enterprises leverage data and automation all up. After Microsoft, I joined DocuSign, where I've had the opportunity to architect and launch this amazing Navigator/IAM platform, directly shaping DocuSign's vision around intelligent and AI-powered agreements. Now, throughout my career, my passion has consistently been, as you may have seen from this narrative, centered around harnessing large-scale data, artificial intelligence, and scalable cloud architectures to solve tangible business problems and unlock meaningful outcomes.
That's incredible. Super rich background, Kunal. Thank you for that overview. And you know all the secrets about Microsoft. If you want to share with audience, feel free to.
Changing very quickly. I won't.
No, that's incredible. As you kind of pointed out, that innovation is sort of the key, whether you were in Microsoft and you were driving certain innovations, whether your current role at DocuSign. We'll talk about Navigator in a little bit, but how do you foresee DocuSign keeping ahead of the curve, ahead of the edge from innovation standpoint? How does it do that? How does it is super successful? Everybody has touched DocuSign at some point in their lives, right? How does it keep the innovation going?
Yeah, the key has got to be AI. In this day and age, everything is getting transformed with AI. And so I'm going to hone in on specifically how AI is turning into the sort of the unlocker or the key, if you will, to not just DocuSign's future and what we bring to the table, but in general, as I'm sure you guys are more aware than most, everybody's scrambling to see how AI transforms their business, their customers' business, and what should they do to take the best advantage of this. And we at DocuSign are building several key Gen AI powered solutions, and specifically on Azure, to transform the agreement lifecycle. As you guys know, DocuSign we pride ourselves on being the agreement people, and we've been doing this for a couple of decades now. But how is AI, how is Gen AI transforming us and transforming the business? One prime example is our custom extractions feature, which enables and allows customers to define and extract bespoke data points from agreements using LLMs. So the key here is bespoke. So it could be something that has never actually been seen by the AI before, but the customer knows that because maybe it's part of their jargon, it's deeply ingrained in their domain. For example, legal, very jargon-rich and specialized domains. So we enable and allow people to define custom extractions just by giving a few examples, or by showing some pieces of agreements where that extraction features, for the AI to then recognize that this is how it goes about spotting those extractions for future. Another product that we are bringing to life is called Chat with Data. And of course, in our context, Chat with Data is going to be chatting with your agreements, with your past agreements and contracts and things of that nature. And so here we enable users to use natural language to ask questions about the agreements. Almost as if you had a genie looking over all your past agreements throughout the whole lifetime of your enterprise or of that organization, and asking it questions and getting it to give you answers. In some cases, answers that are specific, for which we would use RAG or RAG to interact with some kind of a data source that has all of this data pre-extracted and indexed. And in some cases, conversational, some cases a little bit more generic about a whole body or corpus of agreements. So these are two examples of how we are using and how we are pivoting our business and the values that we can provide to a very vast group of users across the world.
That's incredible, very insightful. And as you said, you touch many, many people. So that's really big, vast impact that you bring to the industry. I know DJ has worked very closely with you, and you already alluded to a few pieces of your work with Microsoft, but I would love for DJ to ask away a few questions, and quench his curiosity. DJ, take it away.
Yeah, thank you so much. So, Kunal, I'm going a little bit off script right away, but I remember working with you guys when you guys were looking at all of the generative AI models. How did you guys come up with the idea of IAM? Because I feel like it was such so innovative, and I remember being testing with your engineering folks. Where did that idea come from? Did it come from Alan? Did it come from Kosh? Did you guys have an ideation session? How did the idea actually come about? Because it's a really fascinating product.
Yeah, so I have to, first of all, thank DJ for this question. But also, y'all have to know that he and I haven't colluded, so he didn't give me this prompt beforehand. So
It's a
the answer
curveball.
really is not. It didn't come from me. It didn't come from Alan. It came from our customers. And
Oh, nice.
the customers have run into this problem that we call the agreement trap. And like not us, but like other industry watchers and commentators like Deloitte have characterized this as a $2 trillion problem or a gap that hasn't
Wow.
been addressed. And before I get into describing what that is, I just wanted to, repeat myself. It's trillion with a T. Right? And so the idea is that, as you guys know, as we all know, as the world moved through COVID, especially, everybody had to do digital agreements all the time, right? And so that led to naturally a proliferation of documents, agreements, contracts, and it became so convenient that people have now started to essentially, kind of like implode under the weight of agreements and contracts to the point where, and as I'm sure some of us, I definitely have fallen into a trap where, as a college student, I was trapped in some kind of a lease for an apartment, and I didn't know that I had to give like 3 months notice to be able to get out of that lease. And so then the choices were either to continue with an apartment that I didn't want to be in, or to pay a fine. And this just gets worse. And like that was a college student story, but this gets much worse. At the enterprise scale, where large enterprises are signing contracts for many millions of dollars, and then to keep track of renewal dates, the renewal terms. Sometimes they can't even control it. Sometimes this is thrust on them by socioeconomic things, the government mandating that like thou shalt contract or not contract with one type of entity or the other. And so then they have to, on a dime, sometimes pivot and make sense of all those contracts that need to be renegotiated. How do they get the best terms for those contracts? What is it going to cost in some cases to be allowed to break out of one type of agreement and into the other? So this is a very big problem, and at scale there is no, and there wasn't before we came up with IAM. To your question, DJ, a scalable solution for this. And many customers, very large customers, in some cases governments, came to us and said, hey, we now have this problem on our hands, and like we came to you guys for digital signature, now we come to you for this problem. Please solve it at scale, because there's no way for us to even throw an army of outsourced consultants or whatever else you can come up with to solve this for us in the time that we have available. So that large and clearly monetizable customer gap and opportunity is what pushed us to start on this route of IAM.
I love that. I love that. And I do remember working with your engineering folks. We have the motto here. It's like meet the customer where they are. I feel like your engineer team was constantly kind of speaking that, right? Hey, we got to meet the customer where they are and kind of double down on some of those pain points. So I love it. Can you talk to us a little bit about some of the generative AI features that are in the product solution at DocuSign and kind of how you guys are building that on Azure?
To your question, DJ, we're building several Gen AI powered solutions on Azure to transform the entire agreement lifecycle. A prime example is our custom extractions feature, which allows customers to define and extract data points from agreements using LLMs. Another one is Chat with Data, which enables users to ask natural questions about their agreements and get insights powered by generative AI understanding. We're also leveraging Gen AI for AI assistant review, which helps teams quickly analyze contracts against playbooks and suggested language. As you can imagine, in some domains like legal, paralegals, lawyers, they can't just go off the cuff and write in language that they can think of at any given moment. They have to stick to what's known as playbooks. They have to stick to contractual language. And so we help them using our generative AI capabilities, which also learns and which can be fine-tuned on these domains and their clause libraries and their playbooks to actually give this help while the agreement is being drafted in the first place. Now, you must appreciate that this is not something that LLM just out of the box will be able to do, right? Because the LLM out of the box, if you say, hey, write me a letter for something else, something or the other, it'll just go and do it using language as it knows it. But for some of these highly specialized domains, we use all of our accumulated over 20 years worth of agreement understanding metadata, our clause libraries, things like that, to fine tune the generative AI so that it can give like very precise like suggestions, help. And then beyond that, it can help with the review process too. So it can go and do redlining. It can go and say, hey, this part doesn't quite meet the contractual language that we use in this company and so on. So that's kind of gives you a flavor for some of the things that we're using AI for.
No, I love it. I love it, Kunal. And then, obviously I've been working with you guys for 3 years. You start looking at like the competition, right? There's so many different platforms out there that are trying to do contract summarization or e-signature. What's DocuSign's value prop over the competitors in the market today?
Yeah, it's a great question, DJ. And as you know, having been like watching our sector for a while now, the
Yeah.
competition is getting, it's heating up, and people are excited about the opportunity. It's not just us that sees this so-called $2 trillion opportunity that Deloitte and others have commented on. So yeah, for sure, the agreement is hot on our heels. At DocuSign, I think that our unique value proposition lies in agreement AI and purpose-built AI for agreements, not so general purpose, right? Like we're not ashamed to say, like we don't, we're not a huge platform of all documents and throw like whatever you can at it. We're very specialized into agreements and contracts. And so, unlike general AI tools over, like I said, like 2 decades plus, which gives us unparalleled accuracy and domain expertise in understanding contract language. These Gen AI features are deeply integrated into our end-to-end IAM platform, delivering value directly within customers' workflows, not just as a standard, like standalone tool. Plus, our long-standing reputation for trust, security, and compliance, of course, built on Azure's secure infrastructure, is critical for handling sensitive agreement data, which is like all in total, all of those things that I've just mentioned is a huge and key differentiator in the market. So, if you had a startup and like you were not in a highly specialized field, sure, you could go and pick up one of these startup sub type suites and be on your way. But like if you were government, if you were legal firm of 100+ years of reputation, would you like be able to like really put your trust in something that wasn't grounded in something like Azure that has gone through all of the compliance gates, and on top of that, DocuSign with their history of understanding like every nuance, 20 years worth of agreements and contracts. So that is really like we play with the big boys, basically, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, no, I love that, Kunal. It's something I think about when I think about your guys' business model and go to market. You guys aren't afraid to say, hey, we're documents first, right? Like
Yeah.
we were the first one with
Yeah,
e-signature, all that
no,
kind of
we
stuff.
have
And you guys
laser
are standing
focus.
on that
We
hill.
have
So I
laser
love it.
focus on what we're about. We
Yeah,
don't pretend to be everything for every person,
I love that. I love
and
it.
we play in the big leagues. Right?
Yes.
We're like you come to us when scale is something that you really care about. Security, compliance, geo availability. These are things that you care about, and that's the kind of solution that we build.
I love it. I love it, Kunal. That brings me into my next question. So you talked about playing in the big leagues. How do you see AI transforming DocuSign's offering in like the next like 2 to 3 years? Like what does that look like if you give us an insight to that?
Thanks for the question, DJ. In the next 2 to 3 years, AI is going to transform DocuSign from just a platform that helps manage agreements to one that actively and intelligently assists and optimizes the entire agreement lifecycle. And what do I mean by that? Well, we see AI evolving into a strategic advisor, not just the co-pilot, but like actually giving you strategic advice to broaden your horizons, to expand your business, and even to impact the bottom line. to proactively, for example, identify risks, uncovering cost savings and opportunities, we have this treasure hunt initiative, and even automating complex tasks through predictive agents. As you know, agentic AI is a big thing that's coming out and has come out. And I don't know if Vrushali knows this or you know this, but the DocuSign MCP server and agents were featured prominently at the recent Microsoft build of I think Charles Lamanna's keynote, and then Satya's keynote had some screenshots of us and so on. So we are actually running fast and hard, and we were one of the first out of the gates for agentic AI. So we're really on that train, and like we're hoping to actually partner very closely with the creators of the platform itself. So that they recognize our needs, they recognize that we essentially are also unlocking an opportunity for them, so that they like the platform like MCP and NL Web. These are super important platforms that will define the future of the agentic web. And at DocuSign, we're right there. We have already been partnering closely with SIs, ISVs. We're talking to our customers, so we can feed requirements that are really important for this, and it can turn into a two-way street. So I think that combining all of this, AI is going to become a seamlessly embedded and providing contextual intelligence and personalized insights, which will make agreements not just manageable, but a source of strategic growth. And that is, I think, a big pivot. That's something that's been in our sights for a long time. That's right. You mentioned Alan. He's been talking about this since the moment that he came into the CEO role at DocuSign. But I think as we go deeper and faster, actually, into the AI-enabled world, this future that we've been dreaming of and envisioning is turning into a reality as we speak.
I love that, Kunal. I love that. And I keep going back to my experience with you guys. I remember when there was a lot of noise around like generative AI models, and obviously we did a big, huge partnership with OpenAI Direct. I remember your engineering folks, they essentially like slowed down to speed up. And I remember we tested with them. It has to be at least 8 months. Longest 8 months of my life. Benchmarking and assessments and use cases and tons of data. But seeing what you guys are doing now is absolutely amazing. And it leads me to my next question. Obviously, there's a ton of people out here, a ton of providers you guys can work with for your AI journey. Why Microsoft for this AI journey? Why is Microsoft important with DocuSign for that partnership long term?
Yeah, this is a great question. And again, Vrushali and others, DJ and I haven't, we haven't had a drink or two beforehand. And this is like, it probably tees me up. I love answering this question because, Microsoft is a key partner for our AI journey for several reasons, but I'll pick the top ones here in the interest of time. Azure provides the enterprise-grade and secure, scalable infrastructure that we need to process billions of documents and handle sensitive customer data in a compliant manner. And, just to give you an example, and I don't want to throw out these numbers just to wow people, but the people who sign using DocuSign are more than 1 billion different people on this planet. Think about that. It's like a sixth or maybe a seventh now of this planet and our species. So that's the extent of our business and how it gets used every day. And now you can think about the level of trust, the level of security, because these agreements and contracts are literally the lifeblood of how deals are inked, how business gets done. Business can be discussed till the cows go home, but until that thing is signed and sealed, it's not a deal. It doesn't get formalized. And so we have been, securing away and now with AI, we're helping people create these contracts, monitor these contracts, get alerted on important things like renewal dates, get help with renegotiating contracts, all of that. But that has to be done super securely. It can't be a slapdash, new entrant into the field. So many of the things that Azure and OpenAI, because it inherits all the compliance certifications, all of the security, all of the other VNets and everything else that Azure already has in place. That is a big reason why we needed to go to a partner like Azure and Azure OpenAI. Now, the other stuff is that Azure OpenAI service also offers us access to very, very powerful LLMs, of course. We all know that ChatGPT and now GPT-4, now GPT 4.5, the other variants like 4 little o, and all of those variants have unique and different capabilities that they bring to the table. And they happen to fit like a glove on our hand, right? Because we have as well, like I was outlining just a few minutes back, different capabilities and different offerings that we offer to our customers. So some of them are more conversational, some of them are more advisory, some of them need to chew through a lot of data before it can give even a couple of sentences worth of advice. And so because these use cases are varied for us and our customers. It just so happens that all of these different model variants that Azure OpenAI brings to the table, it's not just a one size fits all. It pretty much has a variant or a different type of model that specializes in every single use case that we have. So the variety as well is very important. The other thing that is super important for us is that Azure OpenAI is not an island. It is surrounded by other assets that are also incredibly useful and usable by us. So, for example, Microsoft investments in areas like Cosmos DB's vector database aligns perfectly with our needs for scalable semantic search and retrieval. They almost work hand in glove. Like we can't separate out our AI offerings from our semantic search and vector DB requirements as well. They're very complementary, and it really helps to have the Azure ecosystem situated right alongside of Azure OpenAI, because it leads to a compact architecture. It leads to lower costs for us to be using it at the massive scales that I alluded to a little bit earlier. So everything being, in the same space, being shareable across Azure, being seamlessly available, and also extremely high SLAs in terms of reliability, availability by the Azure teams. So all of this brings it together really nicely for us in a package, and then we can also obviously get economies of scale from using this. All like not just bits and pieces, but many things from Azure and across the ecosystems for the capabilities that we're bringing to the table.
I love it. I love it. And then last question from me. I know IAM and DocuSign Navigator a little bit fairly new with the generative AI tools. Do you have like a favorite use case that comes to mind for you when you start thinking about that solution area for DocuSign?
Well, for reasons that I hope that you will appreciate and forgive me for, I won't name a specific customer, but think about the churn that the geopolitics is forcing on some of our customers. Some of the largest customers are being told basically that, hey, like you can't do business with this group of companies in country X. You need to be looking and doing deals with company Y or what company, these types of companies in a different block of countries. And sometimes and that can be brought about due to many reasons. It could be brought about because of a war. It could be brought about because of trade deals and so on and so forth. And unfortunately, these types of large customers don't have a whole lot of time to go and pivot. And like I said earlier, they to get out of it, to get out of a contract, to get out of some kind of agreement. Sometimes there's very high fees to be able to do that. So that's that's my favorite use case, because it happens at such a massive scale for our largest customers, and I think you guys can extrapolate from what I'm just telling and say, like, what could these customers be? And they literally don't have weeks and months to do all this. They have to spot those agreements from maybe millions or tens of millions. They have to find another entity to negotiate with. They have to figure out terms that they can afford to be able to get out of the old deal. They have to then do like the sum total of their budget versus how much it's going to cost them to enter into a new deal, and do this at massive scale in very short amount of time. So this is not even like like a futuristic use case, and I'm not dreaming about something that isn't likely to happen. This is like literally happening, and people are getting burnt by this. So to be able to solve this kind of multifaceted and super complex problem for our real and some of our largest customers, is not for the faint of heart. And also, like, even if it wasn't for the faint of heart, even if I, as an architect, had this vision, it's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna have this massively scaling system and stuff like that. Again, it's not like the infrastructure needs to be mature. It needs to have gone through the paces and years of kind of fine tuning for scale, and also their service ethos, their ability to serve customers like ourselves at that super high SLA has to be proven. So this all brings together, there's not too many left when you put all of these kinds of super complex requirements on the table. From the agreement side is pretty much us. From the service maturity, as well as like what's the latest and greatest AI, that's what's the most capable to solve these problems. Again, just like Azure, OpenAI. There's not too many options on the table. Maybe that's going to change in the future. I hope it does. I hope many more people enter the spaces that we are in as Microsoft and Azure and as DocuSign. But for today, these are sort of the last two standing, if you will. And I'm so glad that we were able to find each other and embrace each other, and really seize this moment and solve this kind of multifaceted and complex challenge for our customers as we are.
I love it. I love it. No, that's amazing, Kunal. It's been exciting working with you guys over the past few years. I'll pass it back over to Vrushali to see if she has any more questions.
So you mentioned the build announcements, and you also mentioned agentic frameworks and agentic AI. The core of agentic AI is AI then being able to execute, correct? That sort of is the holy grail that we are trying to do, where then humans are less involved or not involved at all, would be ideal scenario. So give our viewers a little bit of insights in terms of the vision DocuSign has to get agentic incorporated into some of the offerings.
Yeah, it's a great question. And now I'll be more so honest, and like maybe less keynote-y about this question, because I think it's like a two-edged sword, right? Like if you let agents loose, and the tasks that they are tasked with are highly sensitive, maybe they're handling sensitive documents and information, trade secrets, that kind of thing, then and that's our space. So if you were talking to somebody, I don't know, in entertainment or something else, the answer might have been quite different. But DocuSign is as high in terms of dealing with sensitive data and things like that as you can imagine. So we are starting to dip our toes into the agentic world and its implications and the opportunities, very intentionally and very systematically. And so where we are starting is to try and automate end-to-end workflows. And so we have a product called Maestro, which is for that purpose, where you may have a whole bunch of things that happen prior to signature, creation, and versions of agreements being reviewed, and various recommendations being made for changes in the drafts and so on and so forth. So that's a flow. That's some part of the flow. Then the signature happens. That thing gets appreciated. And then there's another flow, right? Like, so then there's cash transaction that happens. There's delivery that happens, fulfillment. And then finally, after everything has been done and dusted, the agreement is then has to still be tracked for the remainder of its life cycle, right? Because then at some point it's going to come up for renewals. How do you do that? Do you renegotiate the terms and so on and so forth? So that whole flow. So we have this suite of workflows known as Maestro, and for the most part, again, they leverage Azure, of course. They leverage Logic Apps, and we are trying to step into the agentic world, leveraging the end-to-end configuration of these workflows, because that is a step that, or that's a task that many of our users find complex, understandably, because these tasks are dealing with, like I said, sensitive data and in some cases trade secrets and things like that. So they are very cautious, and so it's a very laborious process. So that's one thing that we are experimenting with and trying to get working really well, because it would solve a real problem for our users. It would enable us to really unleash the power of our Maestro workflows more broadly. Of course, it would lead to great productivity gains for these customers, because then they can say, okay, we'll teach this, we'll do a few, maybe a couple, maybe 5 or 10 of these workflows, and then the agents can take over, because then they would kind of know how to configure these things. They would know all the steps that go in and all the checks that need to be there and so on. And also, human in the loop is super important for us. And so, where does the human come in to check or like periodically do a spot check and so on? How do you handle errors in those flows? So we are doing all of this very systematically, very intentionally. We're not going for whiz bang on day one with agents. Sometimes these CEO demos seem to indicate, but we will get there. And we are going to accumulate all these learnings. The agents will get more and more capable, more and more powerful. But we always have to guarantee securability, verifiability, auditability, compliance, of course, and everything else. So that's kind of where we are on the agentic journey.
That's amazing, Kunal, because you touched what my hunch was, which is like you cannot entirely automate, at least not today.
Exactly.
We cannot completely remove human from the loop because of the complexity, because of the compliance security, and just the data.
Maybe in some spaces you can, right? Like, I don't know, like if you thought of, I don't know about you guys, but I have like I know these kids who play Minecraft and these kinds of games. So if you think about agents, I don't know, like playing Minecraft.
Sure,
you can make some mistakes. That's fine. Nobody's gonna.
Not with DocuSign, though.
Not at DocuSign.
Not with DocuSign.
So I think,
yes.
The answer to your question, Vrushali, I would expect be quite different depending on the domain. Where these agents are being deployed, what types of use cases are involved. In our case, though, we have to be super careful.
Exactly. Yeah, the sensitivity and the stakes are super high, right? It's unlike creating a character in Minecraft, which is very different. But no, this has been a very fascinating, very insightful session. What is call to action? So we treat Microsoft sellers as an extended army of your sales team, right? So what would be that one call to action for our Microsoft sellers to kind of listen to whenever they are talking to their customers and say, okay, DocuSign could be a very good fit? What would that be?
Thanks for the question, Vrushali. To the Microsoft seller community, I would highlight the power of combining DocuSign's agreement AI with your customers' existing Azure investments. So, go and ask your clients about the challenges they face managing complex contracts, finding key terms, or automating agreement workflows. DocuSign's AI, which is built securely on Azure, can help them unlock significant value, improve efficiency, and reduce risk in their agreement processes. It's a natural extension of the trusted solutions that you already provide. So I think it would go hand in hand. It would hopefully complement and resolve these real world problems, especially at massive scale, and security that don't really have good solutions outside of the ones that our companies together have created.
That's amazing. Thanks, Kunal. And yeah, this is a wrap. If our listeners want to learn more about DocuSign, where will they go?
Well, first of all, I want to thank both DJ and yourself, Vrushali, for having me. To learn more about DocuSign, how DocuSign is transforming the agreement lifecycle with AI, I would encourage your listeners to visit DocuSign.com And there are lots of information links and learning links and SDK links and things like that they will find off of that. And then for especially our intelligence agreement IAM platform specifically, they can go off of, again, the same overall landing page, DocuSign.com. And then there's an intelligent -agreement -management. And there they can learn all about Navigator and our AI features and discover how Agreement AI powered by Microsoft Azure can benefit their organizations. And then for the more technical minded folks who may be interested or curious in, I mentioned various big numbers. I mentioned $2 trillion gap, and I mentioned 1 billion of the world's population using us. So these are big numbers. And so, the engineers among this audience might be curious to learn about, how did we scale these solutions? And for this, I can point to a breakout session from last November's Ignite, which I gave along with some presenters from your AI team and also Cosmos DB. I believe the breakout session was 124. So if there's a way for you guys to, or just search for DocuSign off of the Ignite presentations from last November, you should be able to find that. And that goes into a lot of technical detail and, architecture diagrams and things like that.
Yeah, that's amazing. We will list out all the assets, so it's very easy for our audience to kind of go and click the links and check out the relevant pages. Any final words, Kunal, from your side before we wrap up for our audience?
Well, keep it coming. That's I think that's my wrap. Is I think we're still scratching the surface, honestly, of what's possible. I think that we have found our stride in terms of the partnership. I think we realize, your strengths. Hopefully, you guys realize, what we bring in terms of massive scale. And if you guys are able to help us on our journey, that will, I think, it's a symbiotic union, I think, between our companies and hopefully for the greater good of many, many people, especially in the business world. So, I just look forward with great, positive energy to our ongoing collaboration across these two companies. And how this can change the world.
That's awesome. DJ, any final words from your side?
No, it's just been amazing working with you guys. Like I said, I've been on the account 3 years at this point, and seeing the transformation to date, it's been an honor being a part of the journey. It's been amazing. So thank you for allowing me to work with you guys closely the way you guys have.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Kunal. Thank you, DJ. And thank you for our viewers for listening, tuning in. As I said earlier, this is a wrap for this season. So thank you, everybody, for your support. I really appreciate it, and we all appreciate it. And hopefully we will see you next time with new season. Until then, see ya. Thanks for listening to the Tech Innovator Spotlight podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe, rate, and review us on your favorite podcast platform. Want to learn more about the AI innovations discussed? Visit techinnovatorspotlight.com for more resources and insights from Microsoft and our technology partners. Stay tuned for more episodes where we continue to uncover the stories that are shaping the future of AI.